Not every Gemini is the same, and that is the first illusion we need to break. People say they understand Gemini. They call them indecisive, inconsistent, someone who changes all the time. But what if that's only the surface? What if inside every Gemini there are two completely different forces, and most people only ever meet one of them? Today you're going to discover why Gemini is so hard to understand, and why the real reason has nothing to do with being two-faced. In this video, I'm going to reveal 5 deep reasons that explain why Gemini seems so complex, unpredictable, and impossible to decode. And the 5th reason, it's the one that changes everything. If you're a Gemini and you've ever felt misunderstood, if you love a Gemini and sometimes feel lost, if you've ever wondered why their energy shifts like the wind, stay with me until the end. Because today you're not just going to hear about Gemini. You're going to see the soul behind the sign. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and turn on notifications. Because here, astrology is deep, revealing, and transformative. The duality that is not contradiction. The first reason Gemini is so hard to understand is because almost no one truly understands their duality. But pay attention, duality is not falseness. It is not inconsistency. And it is certainly not contradiction. It is depth. Gemini carries within themselves two currents of wind blowing in different directions, and yet both belong to the same sky. There is the side that wants to talk, explore, and experience the world with almost childlike curiosity. And there is the side that observes in silence, analyzes, questions, and processes everything internally. One side is light in motion. The other is thinking shadow. And both are real. The problem is that the world is used to linearity, to predictable people, to personalities that remain static. But Gemini is not static. Today they may be enchanted by an idea. Tomorrow they may have discovered a new perspective and completely changed direction. That is not lying. That is expansion. The Gemini mind is like the sky at dawn, constantly changing colors, yet still the same sky. They can see two sides of a situation at the same time. They can defend one point of view and minutes later understand the opposite with the same intensity. Not because they lack an opinion, but because they have a wide vision. This duality makes them seem indecisive to those who need rigid certainty. But in truth, Gemini lives in a continuous state of mental evolution. They don't contradict themselves. They update themselves. And here is the deepest part. This internal multiplicity can be lonely, because it isn't always easy to explain to others that you haven't changed your essence. You've only changed your perspective. The gift of this duality is versatility. The ability to adapt, to learn quickly, to talk to any kind of person, to move between different worlds without losing your identity. The challenge? Being seen as unstable. But the truth is, Gemini is not unstable. They are vast, like the sky that can hold sunshine and a storm on the same day. Understanding Gemini begins when you accept that inside them there isn't just one voice. There are echoes, layers, movement, and all of them belong to the same soul, the mind that operates at high speed. The second reason Gemini is so hard to understand lies in the speed of their mind. Trying to keep up with a Gemini is like trying to hold the wind in your hands, while you're still organizing one thought. Gemini has already crossed 3 ideas, analyzed 2 possibilities, and imagined 5 future scenarios. The Gemini mind doesn't walk, it runs. It jumps like an electric spark in the dark. It connects invisible dots. It makes associations no one else noticed. That's why they often change the subject quickly, change plans quickly, change opinions quickly. But it's not superficiality. It's accelerated processing. It's as if their brain is always in expansion mode, absorbing information from the environment, from people, from unspoken words. Gemini listens to what you say, but they also listen to what you hesitate to say. They observe the tone, the pause, the look in your eyes. While they seem to be just talking, they are analyzing. This mental speed is a rare gift. They learn quickly, adapt quickly, solve problems with unexpected creativity. They are like lightning. They illuminate the darkness for a second, but in that second, they reveal everything. The challenge is that not everyone can keep up with that rhythm. To someone slower, Gemini seems impatient. To someone more fixed, Gemini seems unstable. But the truth is, their mind needs constant stimulation. When there is no novelty, challenge, or intellectual exchange, something inside them begins to dim. Restlessness is born, and that's where many people misunderstand them. It's not that Gemini loses interest in people. They lose interest in stagnation. Mental silence can feel suffocating to them. That's why they talk. That's why they question. That's why they jump from subject to subject. It's internal movement. But there's also a side few people see. This accelerated mind can be exhausting. Thinking too much. Analyzing too much. Imagining too many scenarios. Sometimes, Gemini wishes they could turn their own brain off, but they don't know how. And maybe that's why they seem restless. Because inside them, there is a sky full of thoughts flying all at once. The gift of this fast mind is living intelligence, brilliant communication, almost magical adaptability. The challenge is finding someone who isn't afraid of the storm of ideas, but who learns to fly with it. Understanding Gemini means understanding that they don't change out of confusion. They change because they've already thought beyond. And by the time you realize it, they're already a few steps ahead. Freedom is more important than stability. The third reason Gemini is so hard to understand is simple, but profound. For Gemini, freedom is survival. While many signs seek security, firm roots, and predictable structures, Gemini seeks air. And air cannot be imprisoned. The Gemini soul is like the wind crossing open fields. It needs space to circulate, to explore, to change direction when it feels its time. When Gemini feels trapped, whether in a suffocating routine, a controlling relationship, or an unstimulating environment, something inside them begins to close. It's not rebellion. It's instinct. It's like asking the sky not to move. Like asking the wind to stop blowing. Gemini loves, yes. They commit, yes. But they cannot stand the feeling of losing their individuality. They need to feel that they choose to stay, not that they are forced to remain. And here is the point that confuses people the most. Gemini can be completely involved and still need space. They can love deeply and still want moments alone, new experiences, new conversations, new stimulation. To someone who values stability above all else, this looks like a lack of commitment. But for Gemini, freedom is what keeps love alive. Without freedom, feelings turn into weight. With freedom, they turn into true connection. The gift of this nature is lightness. Gemini brings freshness to relationships. They bring movement. They bring spontaneity. They are partners who encourage growth, change, evolution. The challenge? The unconscious fear of feeling trapped. Sometimes, before they are even confined, they already begin to pull away. Before routine becomes heavy, they start searching for something new. Not because they don't love, but because their soul was made to expand. Understanding Gemini requires a shift in perspective. They don't run from people. They run from the feeling of stagnation. They don't reject stability. They reject immobility. Balance for Gemini lies in finding someone who offers security without building cages. Someone who holds their hand, but doesn't hold their wings. Because deep down, what Gemini wants most is not to leave. It's to have enough freedom to choose to stay. And when they feel that, they don't fly away. They fly beside you. The social side hides an inner world. The fourth reason Gemini is so hard to understand is because almost everyone knows the character, but few know the soul. Gemini is remembered as the communicator, the charismatic one, the one who dominates the conversation, makes everyone laugh, and seems to connect with anyone in seconds. And it's true. There is a natural brilliance in Gemini's energy, an almost magical ease in moving between groups, ideas, and different environments. They enter a room like a light breeze, and before you realize it, they've changed the entire atmosphere. But here's what almost no one notices. The Gemini who talks a lot also feels deeply. The Gemini who laughs easily also thinks profoundly. The Gemini who seems light carries reflections they rarely share. Behind the social skill, there is a silent observer. While talking, Gemini analyzes. While joking, they notice the nuances. While appearing to simply interact, they are absorbing everything. They read the room like someone reading an open book. They pick up on energies, subtle shifts in mood, words that were never spoken. But not everything they perceive, they reveal. Because Gemini chooses what to show. And that is the most mysterious part. Many believe they know Gemini because they've had deep conversations with them. But the truth is, Gemini rarely reveals all their layers. They share thoughts. They share ideas. They share opinions. But feelings, those come in pieces. There is an inner world filled with questions, memories, fears, and dreams that are not always exposed. And why? Because vulnerability, for Gemini, is not something given immediately. They need to trust. They need to feel safe. They need to be sure they won't be judged for their complexity. The gift of this social side is connection. Gemini can talk to any type of person. They can adapt their language. They can build bridges where others see walls. But the challenge is that they are often seen only as light or superficial, when in truth, their depth is protected behind a smile. Understanding Gemini means realizing that external brilliance does not cancel internal intensity. The communicator is real, but the silent thinker is real too. And perhaps the greatest difficulty lies there. You can spend years talking to a Gemini and still not fully know the universe they carry inside. Because the social side is the doorway, but the soul, that is only revealed to those who know how to see beyond the words. And the one that surprises the most. Now we arrive at the reason that changes everything. The one almost no one notices. The one that completely transforms how you see Gemini. Gemini does not change because they are unstable. Gemini changes because they are constantly transforming. There is a huge difference between instability and evolution. Instability is losing your center. Transformation is expanding your center. And Gemini is a sign of constant mental, emotional, and spiritual movement. While some signs build deep roots in the same soil, Gemini builds wings. They were not made to remain the same. They were made to experience different versions of themselves. Every new idea they learn, every meaningful conversation, every disappointment, every discovery, all of it alters something inside them. And they allow that change. This is the part that surprises most. Gemini is not afraid to reinvent themselves. If something no longer makes sense, they let it go. If a belief becomes too small, they replace it. If an old version no longer represents them, they leave it behind. To those observing from the outside, it looks like inconsistency. But yesterday you thought differently. But before you wanted something else. But you changed. Yes, they changed because they grew. The Gemini mind is in permanent update mode. It's like a sky that never shows the exact same cloud formation twice. That can be unsettling for those who need predictability. But for Gemini, staying the same out of obligation is suffocating. They would rather be honest about their transformation than loyal to an outdated version of themselves. The gift of this nature is extraordinary. The ability to start over. The ability to adapt to any phase of life. The ability to learn quickly and move forward. They don't cling to what once was. They allow themselves to become something new. But there is a quiet challenge in all of this. Not everyone keeps up. Some people fall in love with one version of Gemini and become frightened when another appears. And that's when the label hard to understand is born. But maybe what is truly difficult is accepting that some souls were born to be movement. Gemini was not created to be a statue. They were created to be wind. And the wind does not ask permission to change direction. It simply follows the flow of its own nature. Understanding this is liberating. Because deep down, Gemini doesn't want to confuse anyone. They simply refuse to stop evolving. And perhaps that is the most powerful and most misunderstood trait of all.